Las Vegas, entertainment capital of the world. The entire world comes to Las Vegas. We are, if you want to say that we serve the greatest food in the world, you can argue that. If you want to
Yes.
say that we are the gambling and gaming capital of the world, you could argue that. Literally one of the greatest cities in the world, and you want to be our mayor. What about your background says that you are ready to lead this city, one of the greatest cities in the world, for the next few years? What about your background says that you're ready to do that?
Well, I think one of the things about my background is not only do I have, my degrees, I've worked hard. I've studied, I have an undergraduate degree from Xavier University. I have a law degree from Loyola, and I have executive studies certification from Harvard. I also feel like I'm just one of the people. I think that's also an intangible quality. You have to make sure that, and you don't have to have all these degrees to be mayor. And I don't want the kids to think that you have to go through all the education, but the opportunities that have presented themselves to me with getting in these rooms and spaces where I could like really try to help dial in what the problems are with great populations and people, and then being thought partners and having collaborative sessions with people who have really been great mentors to me, so that we could execute a plan to make people's lives better. There's nothing more fulfilling to me. You have to be kind of aligned with what you want to do. And public service, I will say this, since I've been at it for quite some time now, over 14 years in my career, it's not something you do necessarily because it's a great corporate job with all the perks and things like that. It's the satisfaction you get, and maybe not necessarily financially, but that you get in your heart when you see that you've helped somebody or some kids or some folks who were maybe more marginalized have access to opportunities. Because for me, Mel, everybody gets a fair shot. I truly believe that to my core. It shouldn't matter if you're black, white, male, or female, gay, straight, purple, or blue. If you live in this city and you contribute to the city, or even if you need wraparound services where you're unable to contribute to the city. And we'll talk about homelessness and the layers to that, the complex layers to that in a moment if you want to go there. It still should be a place where no matter where you go and you access government, it should be something that's helpful, friendly, and informative so that you can map out your life. Life is hard enough as it is. Government is, in my opinion, should be put in place to help assist people when they need help. For many entrepreneurs that come into the city who just want to start a business, it's getting the permits together and understanding how they can build and land use, and so that they can do their thing. For others, it might be, I need more wraparound services. I'm experiencing homelessness, or there's addiction in my family, or I'm dealing with a domestic situation. I need law enforcement, or there's a fire. I need fire and rescue. I need EMT. Government should be there, and you should be able to call, pick up, access online, quality service, in the sense that I know that I make a phone call or I reach out to government, I'm going to get a call back, or if someone doesn't pick up, or I know how to access government. And so one of the things that the mayor can also do too, and I'll be working that out my first 100 days, is just meeting with the city manager and kind of seeing how we operate already, and talking about with a very open mind how we can streamline some of the things that are happening with folks that I'm hearing on my listening tour, like a young entrepreneur, restaurant owner, a fabulous restaurant, but he's having difficulty getting a food truck permit. Sounds kind of,
I like that. I like that. Talk to me about, from your
right.
perspective, name the top three challenges the city is facing and what you will do about those challenges.
They're all related, Mel, and thank you for that question. It's safety, which is always the overarching theme of any city, is to keep it safe for tourists and the people that live in the city, because the city of Las Vegas is unlike any other city, and you can't compare them. But you have to make sure that people are safe, especially in the entertainment capital of the world, making sure that our business owners and the folks that frequent the businesses are safe. Also making sure that the parks are safe and clean, and that kids can play in them, that it's accessible for people to enjoy. It's a quality of life issue. This is what the mayor does. So safety is always the overarching, and it's a big budget item too in the city budget. It's probably the biggest one, to make sure that people are safe so that they can feel comfortable living in the city that they live in. The other top two issues are making sure
So
people have
let
good
me ask
paying
you something
jobs.
about let me ask you
Uh-huh.
something about safety, because safety is a big issue. Okay.
Okay.
And we are hearing that on the news, we're listening nightly and so forth, and we are hearing issues on the strip, issues downtown Fremont. What would you do differently to make Las Vegas safer?
Well, I would really have to talk to the marshals and support the police and our law enforcement, because that is key in making sure that we have a safe city. And that means lifting up law enforcement and also getting down to the bottom of why things are the way they are. And interestingly enough, what seems to be more prevalent in downtown are property crimes, and not necessarily like petty thefts or robberies, which is great. Which is, I mean, none of it's great, but you don't want personal assaults on people. Property vandalism and crimes, though, is something that detracts from the beauty of the city, and it discourages investors to come here and build, which goes towards economic growth, which is the number two thing that I think most voters want, and most people living in the city. They want to live in a city where they can get a good job, and there's opportunities to have good jobs. So we need to bring industry here, and also lift up our current entrepreneurs so that they can get access to capital through private public partnerships. The city can be a conduit to facilitating how folks can acquire a small business loan, work with our chambers to make sure that the cool companies come here, so that they can have good paying jobs, and that our kids, when they get out of school, they don't go elsewhere. They want to stay in Vegas, and that we can have tech and other non-traditional jobs, to really enhance the cost, the life of people who just want to, like, get married, buy a house, and take care of their kids. It really is a good quality of life is what the mayor is supposed to lift up. Because what we're seeing right now is that $8 an hour, $8+ an hour ain't cutting it. And so that is the number two issue. It's building and creating an economic base where people can live well with good paying jobs. And the third is, of
So
course, our
let's
issue of
talk just a little bit
homelessness.
about let's talk just a little bit about economic development.
Sure.
Vegas is fantastic. As a matter of fact, on the strip, they absolutely print money. It is fantastic. You walk down the Las Vegas Strip, and you look to the left, and there is a $1 billion facility. You look to the right, there's a $1 billion facility. And all the way down the strip, it is $1 billion facility after $1 billion facility after $1 billion facility. Problem is that not everybody is getting a slice of the pie. How are how are people in my community, how are Black and brown folks, how are people who are not rich and powerful going to get a slice of that pie? How are you going to help even that out?
Well, I want to say too, I can very much agree with you in that, because I am an African American woman, and so oftentimes, even to get to where I'm at today, I've had to be creative or been blessed with opportunities that most people don't see, and that's access to opportunities or relationships that put you there. Oftentimes, we tend to think that you have to be some neuroscientist or neuroscience. You have to be a rocket scientist. Let me say this in order to have a seat at the table, and then when you get there, you're quite often surprised that, okay, well, this is not so hard. This is not unobtainable. It just
Yes,
means I don't have the contacts to get to where I'm at. And so accessibility is a key component in that, Mel, and making
yes,
sure that I am able to show folks that, hey, with inclusion, with looking at different types of people, and we we lift up business owners and entrepreneurs that aren't traditional, in the sense that maybe they don't come from a long legacy of access. Maybe they're brand new and they're startups, but we see what happens with startups. They can happen in a garage, and next thing you know, these folks are just doing so well, and with their entrepreneurial minds and the opportunities, the world has changed for better. And so one of the things that I would like to do, because I can mirror that sentiment that access has been difficult in my
Yes.
professional career, as a Black woman, I would also be very sensitive to that. It's also getting representation that looks like you and understands some of the hardships that other people have to encounter. And it's not saying that there are, let me just say this. I'm not saying that equity doesn't play a part in this. There's national data that shows that some people are left out more than others. But
Yes.
the mayor has a cool job where by putting me in that position, I can start building that bridge, creating opportunities for other people to get noticed. It's kind of like what Jay-Z and did with Rock Nation, his company, with the Super Bowl and NFL, with getting
Yes.
more halftime acts that were of color, because there's such a significant contribution by African Americans in the NFL and the National Football League, where it's kind of great to also see talent and halftime acts get this great platform for exposure for everybody to consume and enjoy. It's not just like what one particular group has isn't good for the masses. I'm of the belief that if we share ideas, we all come out on top. I like culture. I like having our city have that flavor, and that's already who we are. It aligns very much with Vegas. You have so many different folks from different walks of life calling Las Vegas home from so many other places. We're all transplants to some degree.
Yes.
Most people aren't necessarily born and raised in the desert. We've emigrated here for various reasons, whether it was to open up our own business or start over again, or look at another type of non-traditional career, or get into like poker tournaments, or enjoying ourselves, retiring. Quality of life is huge, and so there's so many reasons that Vegas is diverse already. It's just getting someone in there who can open and build the bridge to give access to capital to people who otherwise don't typically see that. And then we get, the blessing is we all get blessed. I really want to hope and change culture in that way when I'm in office. I know that the council members, so the mayor sits one of seven. There are other council members that sit on council.
Yes.
But I'm of the understanding, Mel, that they tend to work in silos. And I don't know how that's been working, but I would like to very much have more of an open door, accessible office, not only to people who live here, but also to fellow council members, where it's appropriate. We have to take votes on ordinances, and so that requires a level of privacy and contemplation and voting on your own. But when it comes to getting people together and trying to find collaborative ways where we can get all of the city residents, lifted up higher, that's going to be a big push for me. And it's always been something that I've liked to do. It's just equal rights, giving people a fair shot. I'm the equal rights administrator for the state. I've been this job for 10 years under 3 different governors, both Republican and Democrat. And so building bridges is something that I really like to do, but also there are just key components, Mel, that I don't care if you've got a D behind your name or an R behind your name. You're still a human being, and we want
Yes.
to live good. We want to have a good paying job. We want to take some vacations, put our kids in school, enjoy our family, and live in a clean, healthy, thriving city. These are
All
things
right.
that,
As a quick
yeah.
recap, we talked about safety. We've talked about economic growth. The number 3 concern that you have as far as our city is concerned.
Homelessness.
Yes.
Homelessness is a problem, and it's for all cities. It's just not Las Vegas, but we see more and more. You can't look away. It's at every intersection. You see a person who is in need of resources, and so that would be day one. Getting together a task force, working with the county, working with private partnerships. Well, when I say private partnerships, with private entities that may have an idea of how we can get this homelessness situation tackled, getting these people into safe housing. That is huge, Mel.
Yes.
Because one thing that it's not doing a service to anybody is having people in tents on the sidewalk in front of businesses. It causes, Mel, can we pause? I want to put my light back on.
Okay.
Sorry. I One of the things that we want to make sure is when we have people who are or living on tents or living in tents, that they are housed safely, not on the sidewalks, because there's a couple of things there. When we look at public safety, we want to make sure that the person who is unhoused, who is homeless, is not in harm's way. And so we need to get them into housing with wraparound services so that they can see a social worker and have access to medication and therapeutics for whatever addiction issues or mental health challenges they're facing. Them living on a tent on the sidewalk in front of a business also has the effect of making the business owners feel uncomfortable. It makes
Yes.
investors feel uncomfortable. And let's talk about what's equitable here. It's not safe to have people who are maybe living a very different lifestyle, you know, outwardly abusing or harassing people who are walking and just trying to enjoy downtown. That's not fair, but it's also not fair to not help them either. So, you know, my approach with homelessness will be one of collaborative efforts and very thoughtfulness about how we execute a task force that actually starts putting unhoused people downtown into secure housing to make the property investments on the strip secure, and make people feel safe when they walk down the street, but not neglecting the human element that someone is in dire need of help and services. One of the things
Listen,
that
I really agree with you as far as homelessness is concerned. We're the greatest country on the face of the earth, and homelessness is a problem that is nationwide. I'm a big proponent of best practices. What best practices, as far as the solution to homelessness, are you looking for, and are you looking at? Who around the country is doing a fairly good job or starting to do a good job in solving this homeless issue?
it is Mayor Karen Bass of LA. Her Safe Initiatives project is really doing some significant work in downtown LA. And what they're doing is they're taking abandoned hotels, renovating them through public-private partnerships, and getting people off the streets into secure housing. The benefits and impacts have primarily been to single women with children,
Yes.
keeping them safe and off the streets. And I am monitoring that closely. I'm also looking at some other Southwestern cities who have this type of, it's really interesting because Vegas is a lot smaller than LA, but at the same time, we have the industry similar. And then some other Southwest cities, we have the same kind of demographics. And when you look at different cities for different things. So with like weather and climate and heat and access to water, I'm looking at Southwestern cities for that, because when you experience homelessness in the desert, it is not pleasant.
Yes.
And water is something that we definitely need, but we can also pair that with technology that I'm seeing other cities use to access water fountains or water parks instead of having roaming water trucks. I really want to innovate the level of city participation in making sure that people have a quality of life for public spaces, which includes people who don't have homes and people who do. But there's ways that we can do it. And I'm looking at different cities for different things. So I know I kind of veered off there a little bit, Mel, but when we're talking about what cities I'm looking at for homelessness, I'm looking at homelessness and getting folks off the streets and safely into housing. I'm looking at LA right now.
Yes.
But for temperature and climate issues that affect homeless folks with their pets and their animals and access to water and air conditioning and even low income folks, I'm looking at other Southwestern cities.
Okay. Let's talk about our children. CCSD, Clark County School District. It is no secret that CCSD is rates as in the bottom. I mean, it is amazing to me how low CCSD rates when we look at the amount of money that's here in Nevada. I can understand Mississippi, I can understand Alabama, the resources are limited. Yes, that is not the case in Nevada. What can you do? What are you planning to do as the mayor to help our children?
I 1000% want our children to be able to graduate post-secondary education, whether it's by going to college or going to a vocational program, to have a good place to work and live here. It is very much a priority that they have a great opportunity to live their best life ever, the best lives hoped for, and that they want to stay. That's any mayor's wish, is that the families and generations stay here, and that we transfer and pass on to the next generations, and the city just grows.
Yes.
That's sustainability and long-term planning, and that's the 25-year plan that I'm looking into as mayor. It's not just 2 terms. It's beyond the stuff that we do when I'm in office, should I get elected by the voters. But as far as CCSD is concerned, they operate very independently, and what the city can do is really be a collaborative partner to make sure that the kids have resources that they need when they seem to not have them. Talking about teachers, I definitely believe teachers should be getting raises. It is just we would not be able to, thank God for teachers. My sister's a teacher.
Yes.
They are just
So
phenomenal.
let me say this. I often say about teachers,
Mhm.
when they are in line, they are going, the question is going to be, oh, you're a teacher? Come on in. They're getting straight into heaven. No questions, no nothing.
Right,
You
right.
taught, they're
Just,
going straight to heaven.
I mean, the level of detail and care that they give to our kids, we need to make sure we support them so that they can have the tools they need to be the best teachers ever, and there's no burnout. But that's something CCSD is actively working through right now with the strikes and whatnot, or what appears to be striking, or what appears to be pushback, because
Yes.
they are demanding respect. However, our kids are the focus, and they oftentimes are the ones that sometimes get forgotten in all these conversations. And it's, how can we give them the best education ever? And so the city can offer, I believe we have one charter school that the city created during COVID. I'm not hearing too many horrible things about that, but also the thing that I really am really impressed with currently right now is that the city has safe key programs for hardworking single parents, or just for parents that are both working, where their kids can hang out after and before school. The city needs to just be a collaborative partner and help out Clark County in any way it can, and the
Yes.
superintendent, to make sure, what do you need? That
What
is
do
what do you need?
need? Yes.
What do you
And
need?
yes, and I want to say that as a member of the 100 Black Men of Las Vegas, we are working very hard, working very close with the school district. We have adopted 6 schools, not 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. We have adopted 6 schools, and we're taking our programs into those schools to help our children. It is an all hands on deck situation. Our
Mel,
kids,
I am not
yeah.
surprised. I have to say the 100 Black Men have been such an amazing organization. And the viewers who don't know, now you know. It is a national organization of
Yes,
dedicated professional Black men to uplift and mentor future generations. And my dad was a proud member of the 100, and the president for his chapter in Sacramento during a time. And so you all are near and dear to my heart. The passion that you all exude, that's exactly probably what I would mirror as mayor. Is, what do you need? Because it isn't all hands on deck. We know that there are more hindrances in getting into college now if you're of a particular demographic.
yes,
And
yes,
so we have to make sure that all the tools are given so that everybody can succeed. That is the goal. Everybody
yes,
gets a fair shot. How can we help? And I also agree that parents should be able to raise their kids in how they want, and if you want to homeschool your children, that is fine too. But how can the city help? But by acting like we are just there for seminars, or we have barbecues or picnics or trash cleanup days, these are all the things, of course, we should be doing. But my leadership, Mel, I'm talking about more involvement, more thinking outside of the box, more collaboration, more lifting up of people, supporting the police, but encouraging safety and safe protests, and allowing the First Amendment right for people to march and protest safely, but also really making sure that if you want to live here, you can get a good paying job, that you have access to good health care, that you have a city that's got your back. You can call them and you know when City Hall is open, you know, that you can access resources to do what you need to do to live well. And so that is what the mayor should be doing. That's what I plan to be doing. And hopefully by next year, we'll be getting well into the election cycle. And I hope I can earn your vote and be your next mayor.
For those who have been listening and they want to get in touch with you and want to get in touch with your campaign, what is your contact information?
Sure. Well, you can contact me on social media outlets. We have an info at Kara for LV Mayor, and that's KARA, the number 4 LVmayor.com. You can email and then also go to my website. That's Kara. It's Kara Jenkins, or it's Kara for LVmayor.com. So if you just Google my name, it will pop up. There's a get involved button. And that way you can be allowed to submit your email so we can put you on email blasts for coffee with the candidate. I've had those now, and meet and greets or a phone call with me to talk about your issues. And actually, I really love having that time with people so that they can really share with me what their frustrations are, or what they need support in, because that weaves into a workable platform. I think for the longest time, when I was in government but a voter, I would always kind of resent those politicians that assumed that I was within a group that was a monolith and we didn't have different needs,
Yeah.
or
Oh,
it was
yes.
assumed what it is that I needed. And so I like to basically talk to the people before the people, so I can know in my mind, okay, what are the top things we need to work on? And those top 3 items were based on not only polling, but having focus groups and doing listening tours. I think a good leader listens, and then she collaborates, and then they execute. And if it messes up, okay, we try it again, but we just don't do nothing. What's the
I love
point?
that. I love that. Listen, you have been wonderful. You have graciously shared your time. I'd like to thank you for joining the show. Always a pleasure having you on the show. But I'm
Thank you,
going to
Mel.
leave the last word with you. So we're going to leave the last word with you.
I know I'm thinking, I want to say that this opportunity is so awesome, and I don't take it lightly. And I truly hope to earn your vote, to gain your support, and that when you see me, you see yourselves, you see a hardworking individual who wants to live a good quality life, that loves her family, that believes in accessibility for everybody, that's been down a path of no's but still kept going, that's rooted in spirituality and the love of my family, and that I believe in people and I believe in you. And I am doing this so that we can all live better quality lives. And I just encourage you to follow me in this journey. And once we get in, that's when the work begins. And I'm
Yes.
happy to do it, and I cannot wait. And I hope to hear from you all soon, and I hope to earn your vote too next year.
Her name is Kara Jenkins. She wants to be the very next mayor of Las Vegas, Nevada. You've been listening to Keeping It 100 with Mel and Bruce, sponsored by the 100 Black Men of Las Vegas. What they see is what they'll be. I'm Mel Tiller, and until next time, keep it 100.